Mandy here, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the second sibling to perfectionism, which is people pleasing. Now, you may or you may not believe you're a people pleaser, but I guess people pleasing is really putting everyone else's needs before yours. It's somebody that can never say no and ends up doing a lot of things out of obligation for others. So there's a part of us that wants to be connected with people and we like to serve others. But when you're doing things for other people, not for you, and then you wished you hadn't said yes, and you're eroding what you want to do in life, then you may have a little bit of people pleasing. Now, the cost of being a people pleaser is because you want to keep the peace and look after everyone else, you don't always look after yourself first, which means your health may suffer. You may feel conflicts inside because of obligations, doing things that you don't want to do. You won't be probably living according to your values, which means you are not living your truth. So you'll have inner conflicts and it can ultimately erode your happiness. It can erode your success. You might not speak up in a situation at work because you don't like confrontation, because part of being a people pleaser is avoiding confrontation. You might not take that job opportunity. You might not speak up. So you might sit at work and feel resentful or unhappy or disappointed. So ultimately, it's going to erode your happiness, your potential, your joy for living. And it's interesting because there's even been a few books written on the art of saying no. So if you're someone, first of all, that finds it really difficult to say no, the first thing I can suggest is just practice with yourself. Stand in front of a mirror, as uncomfortable as it will be, practice saying no. You see, part of change is making the unfamiliar familiar and the familiar unfamiliar. And because people pleasing it becomes a habit, it means to change a habit, you have to get outside your comfort zone and do something differently. So it may feel really uncomfortable to say no, and you'll probably feel uncomfortable. So if you practice mentally rehearsing, visualizing yourself saying no to somebody, or watching yourself behave in the manner that you would like to do, if you do it in advance, you are starting to lock in a new program. Your mind doesn't know what's real or imagined, so it will start to respond in the same way. So that's the first step. Now, the other thing with people pleasing is what happens is we then have a belief that, oh, I'm a people pleaser. I don't like confrontation. I can't say no. And our beliefs shape our life. They're like invisible lenses that we view the world through, which means it cuts off your limitations and opportunities for changing the pattern. So if you find yourself a people pleaser, think again of on an aeroplane, when you get the safety talk at the beginning of a flight, and they talk about the oxygen masks will fall down from here, who do they say you must put the oxygen mask on first? Yeah, it's you. You can't help anyone else if you don't put your oxygen mask on first. So if you are a chronic people pleaser, you don't like confrontation, you always say yes to things and then you wish you hadn't, it means you need to address this, because you won't have your full energy and potential to serve others because you're minimizing your power, your confidence and self-esteem. So here's a way to get around it. First of all, you have to get clear and take a few moments to think about where in your life do you find it hard to say no? What are you doing out of obligation that you really don't want to do? Think of all those family Christmases that you just turn up to because you feel obligated. Now, sometimes we need to, or it's a good idea to, because we have to compromise. But if you're always doing things for other people and you are not doing things for yourself, it might be time to take a good hard look at what you're doing. So behind people pleasing and also perfectionism comes a deep-seated fear. Every behavior we've done protected us and had a purpose for some reason. So many people please because they don't want confrontation. What does confrontation mean? It means that they might not like us, or they might say something that is hurtful. And that hurtfulness means that, it might minimize our personal power, and we might feel that we're not lovable, or we will be rejected. And being rejected is, we are hardwired to avoid that at all costs. Because going back in evolutionary days, if we were rejected from the tribe, or we were left on our own, we would die. So that is the power of our deepest fears that sometimes fuel the presenting patterns of perfectionism and people pleasing. So a lot of people pleasing will come down from a fear of being alone or not loved. So one way to help yourself unpack this is, if you know you're a people pleaser, ask yourself this question: what is the purpose of people pleasing? And if you can't find the answer, keep asking yourself, what is the purpose of people pleasing? So it might be something like this: I'm afraid that people might not like me. So what is the purpose of people not liking me? Again, what is the purpose of people not liking me? Well, I have a fear of being on my own. What is the purpose of being afraid of being alone? So now you're getting to the fact that you actually don't want to be alone, which is some old wound, because ultimately we have to be okay with being on our own at life. So then now you know that there's a fear of being alone. Then you can ask yourself a question such as this: is it possible to be on my own without pleasing people? Then you might go, yes, it is. So then you might ask, how many ways can I be okay with being on my own without worrying about pleasing other people? If you come up with all these ways that you will be comfortable being on your own, you will start to unpack your drive to always have to please other people. So they are related, even though they sound they're not, even though they may sound they're not. So ultimately, at the bottom, it will be a fear of being rejected, of not being worthy, not being good enough, not being lovable enough, or being on your own. Because the three greatest fears we have in our life are a fear of abandonment, a fear of trust, and a lack of self-worth and not good enough. And whatever level we're playing with in our life, even highly successful people sometimes still have these little patterns, because most of the programs that we're operating in our life we got when we were young. So the more we can unpack our programs that are currently running in our life today, the more we can free ourselves, and we can create the future as we want. We can be more empowered and step into our confidence. So ask yourself, just to recap those questions: what is the purpose of people pleasing? Keep drilling down until you get down. It'll be a feeling, and it'll probably be rejection or fear. Or I don't want to not be loved. And if you don't want to be loved, it's a fear of rejection, which I say we're hardwired to avoid, because humans move away from unpleasant feelings and we move towards pleasure. So when you think about it, people pleasing, you're going to feel better because you don't have to worry about confrontation, not being liked, or being rejected. So the key in life is to operate through a lens despite how you feel. So asking yourselves these questions will unpack it. Writing down 100 ways that you are okay with being on your own without pleasing people is another way, and mentally rehearsing and visualizing yourself behaving as you would like to behave. The more you can imagine yourself in the situation, holding your body, feeling confident, the words coming out of your mouth as you would like them to be, your actions and your behaviors as you would ideally like to act, will all help you to overcome the pattern of people pleasing. And I will say that for some people, it's really hard to uncover these patterns on your own. And I guess that's where my tools and techniques come in, because they shortcut everything. Your subconscious mind is 1,000,000 times more powerful than your conscious mind. So consciously, you might tell yourself how silly you are that you have to please other people. You know it doesn't work, but you may find yourself behaving in a completely different manner, because we're humans. And that is the power of your subconscious mind that ultimately runs your life. When you understand it, get to know who you are, and clean out the energy and the patterns of what is currently not working for you, you free yourself from this, and opportunities and magic happens. So I hope that was helpful. Leave me a comment below as to whether you're a people pleaser, what's it costing you in your life, how you overcome it, and if you have any other questions.